What is up, and welcome back to Free's First Time, where I've been documenting my experiential whiskey education. Today we're going to be putting these two babies, Bourbon and Scotch, under a microscope to hopefully help you differentiate between the two. So, in the immortal words of Ad Rock, MCA, and Mike D, check it out. What's it all about? Work it out. Let's turn this party out. Now, first I want to start out by saying that this video is directed towards people with a whiskey level at mine and a little bit lower. So you pros that want to talk about PPMs and ECBPs and the Ardbeg Distillers, Brothers, Third Cousins, Dalmatians,
I think it's Pomeranian.
Sherry Casks, Small Batch Selects. This video ain't for you, man. This video ain't for you. But if you want to stick around, I do give some little known facts about these beautiful beverages at the end of the video. You're really going to want to listen to them because they're pretty special, and I guarantee you'll learn something. So first things first, the most important aspect we need to talk about when differentiating these two liquids is every American's kryptonite: geography. So let's start with Scotch. So in order to be called Scotch whiskey, it needs to be, of course, distilled and aged in Scotland, and it cannot leave the country in anything besides a bottle. If it leaves in a barrel, not Scotch. If it leaves in a fish tank, not Scotch. If it leaves in an awesome David Bowie from Labyrinth, but he's Jesus glass, it's still not Scotch, although that is pretty awesome. So, if you talk to someone that says, "Oh, I have this new Japanese Scotch," no, they don't. So as far as bourbon's concerned, the rules pretty much are the same, although we switch over to America. And although some purists will agree and they will argue that it is not bourbon unless it is made in Kentucky, the U.S. government tends to disagree because in 1964 they downed bourbon as an essential American product and can be created in any state where distilling spirits is legal. And very similar to the Scotch, if someone comes up to you and says, "Hey man, I got this Chilean bourbon," no, they don't. Next thing we're going to talk about that differentiates these two liquids are the ingredients and the aging process. Alright, again, let's start with Scotch. There are 5 different categories that you're going to find. Typically, you're going to find the malted barley made Scotches, but you can also find the grains. You can also find blended malts, blended grains, and then blended Scotch. And blended Scotch is just a blend of the blended malts and the blended grains. Now, bourbon, by law, must be made with at least 51% corn. The other items on the mash bill, which is the ingredient list of what goes into it, rye, barley, and wheat. Bourbon also cannot be distilled at a proof higher than 160, which is 80% ABV, and when going into the barrel, it cannot be any higher than 125 proof. Scotch, on the other hand, can go up to 190 proof. And there is no minimum or maximum when going into the barrel. Although there is a minimum when going into the bottle. Both of these have a minimum ABV of 40. As far as age is concerned, a Scotch cannot be called a Scotch whiskey unless it is a minimum of 3 years old. And remember, the number that you're seeing on the bottle is the number of the age, of the youngest whiskey in that bottle. Bourbon, on the other end, doesn't have an age requirement, really. It has to spend some time in a barrel. It can actually be dumped through an open barrel and still technically be called a bourbon because it was technically in a barrel. Now, as far as aging vessels are concerned, bourbon has a very strict law, and it must be new charred oak that they age their bourbon in. Scotch, on the other hand, they have a little bit more wiggle room. In fact, the bourbon companies often will send their barrels over to Scotland to help them age their spirits. And Scotch often uses brandy and sherry barrels as well. And that is basically it. Those are the objective differences. In a nutshell, that's basically what it is. It comes down to location, ingredients, age, and storage. Now, the subjective differences on the other end, that's going to be discussed for ages and ages to come, and I don't think that will ever end. Okay, now, as promised, I'm going to give you a couple of very, very little known facts about these two. Alright, here we go. Fun fact number 1. Upon hearing the word "stop" said loudly and quickly, Bourbon has told me that it is more of a collaborate and listen type of beverage, while Scotch, on the other end, is a in the name of love type of drink. I personally am a hammer time guy. And fun little known fact, number 2. While the amazing whiskey titan Ralphie has been once quoted that nothing disrupts good whiskey like bad company, in a 1994 interview, Bourbon once said that one of his closest friends is a huge bunghole that loves the 1974 hit Can't Get Enough. Bad company? Bad company joke? Nah, whatever. And thus concludes the minute nutshell comparison about these two beautiful things. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I hope you laughed a little bit. I often get asked, Freed, which one of these would you choose if you could only have one? And I gotta tell you, the answer is